Hello, Father Ryan scholars. I sure wish I could be there in person to honor you all for your hard work and accomplishments. I've never been inside your school, but I've heard much about it because my daughter in law, Allison Williams Maraniss, went there, as did her brother, Hayden Williams. And I know the school has a rich history of scholarship and of being a forward looking place that respects truth, science, and the fair treatment of all people. This is a hard time to be a student, an unfair situation that was not of your making. You deserve better. I try to be skeptical, but never cynical, and the optimism I carry is largely because of your generation. I know your generation and think it's wise and committed to doing good in the world. There's no one single way to do that good. We each have to find our own way. My way of trying to do good is by writing, nonfiction writing about politics and sports and music and sociology and race relations. I write about our world, our history, as a means of illuminating the present and pointing to the future. I'm going to tell you a few stories about some of the people I've written about and how they confronted their own difficult times and overcame them and paved the way for the rest of us. They all happened before your time, but speak to your time, as all people of substance do. The first story is close to home in Nashville, about the Tennessee State Tiger Bells, the women's track team at the historically black school. It was 60 years ago, at a time when there was no Title IX to allow girls and women the same support as boys and men in sports, at a time when it was considered unladylike for women to compete in track and field. When the Tiger Bells had to practice on a half track with potholes in it, when their coach did not have his own office, when the team had to use two old beat-up station wagons to travel to games, when they had to drive through the Jim Crow segregated South, unable to stop at gas stations. Out of that came the greatest track team in world history, winning more gold medals than any men's or women's team anywhere. And it started in 1960 at the Olympics in Rome, when they were led by the great sprinter Wilma Rudolph, who had to overcome polio as a child and spent many years as a child with a brace on her leg. Wilma won 3 gold medals in Rome, the dashes and the anchor on the 400-meter relay, and was the toast of the world. She came from Clarksville, Tennessee, and after she won those gold medals, her hometown wanted to honor her with a welcome home banquet. The trouble was Clarksville was segregated. The only black people allowed at the banquet hall would be the servers. Wilma Rudolph said, "No way. I only come if people of all colors are invited." She forced their hand, and that was the first fully integrated banquet in Clarksville history. Her lesson: speak up, stand up for what's right, and you can change the world. I also wrote a biography of Barack Obama. The story I'll tell you is not about him as a politician. It doesn't matter what your politics are to appreciate this story. It's about when he was 6 years old. Barack Obama was born in Hawaii, further from the mainland than anywhere in the world. Nowhere, you might say. His father was Kenyan, his mother from Kansas. That marriage fell apart, and then his mother married a man from Indonesia. When Barack was 6, he was known as Barry. He and his mother and stepfather moved to Indonesia, to the capital city of Jakarta. They lived in a neighborhood called Mentang Dalam, with narrow streets and street vendors and exotic animals. But Barry was considered exotic to the local kids. He didn't go to the fancy international school with the rich children of diplomats. He went to the local Catholic school, Francis of Assisi, where everyone spoke the native language, Bahasa Indonesia. And little Barry had to learn it. He had to sink or swim with the kids there, who teased him for having darker skin and for the way he talked. But he adjusted. And when I went to Jakarta to research my book and saw the little stucco house he lived in and soaked up the sounds and sights of that dense neighborhood, it washed over me. What an amazing story, to go from little Barry on the other side of the world to President Barack Obama in the White House. Obstacles are there to be overcome. We all need mentors. I wrote a book about Detroit and focused part of it on the wonders of Motown, the music of my generation, long before rap. But it might be familiar to you. Stevie Wonder, the Supremes, Marvin Gaye, the Temptations, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. Smokey Robinson, as a teenager with the Miracles, got his first big break at the Apollo Theater, New York, when he was invited to play for the Ray Charles show. Ray Charles, the blind musical genius. Smokey showed up with a song he wanted to perform with the Miracles, and the house band asked him if he had music for them to read so they could play it. I know Father Ryan has a great musical tradition, so you'll understand. Smokey only had one onion skin page of music, and it was just for him and the singers, not the band. And the house manager was furious. Smokey thought he'd lost his chance before it even started. Then Ray Charles walked in the room. "What's the problem?" he asked. He was told there was no sheet music for the band. "Well, Smokey, tell me how the melody goes," Ray said. "Sit down here at the piano and play the melody for me." And Smokey did, nervously. And Ray Charles said, "Okay, I got it." And he turned to his band and said, "Saxophones, you do this. Horns, you play this. Trombones, do this." And he arranged the whole piece by ear and made it work. And Smokey and the Miracles sang it, and it went wonderfully, all because of the kindness of the already famous Ray Charles, treating young Smokey, who he didn't know, with respect and helping him out of a frightening situation. Smokey Robinson never forgot it, and when he became famous himself, he tried to pass that generosity along and said if Ray Charles ever called for help, he could be anywhere. He said he could be in Timbuktu, and he would answer that call, because Ray Charles was a generous mentor. Finally, a story about Roberto Clemente and selflessness. It was 1972. An earthquake had just ravaged Nicaragua. Roberto Clemente was a great baseball player, the first great Latino. At the end of the previous season, he'd gotten his 3,000th hit. He'd been in Nicaragua a few months earlier for the Caribbean World Series. And when he heard about the devastating earthquake, he started raising humanitarian aid for Nicaragua. He sent plane loads down to Managua, the capital, to help the people. And then he heard the strongman dictator of Nicaragua, Antonio Somoza, was seizing the aid, and it wasn't getting to the people. Clemente said, if I go, it will get to the people. And so he got on a plane that was overloaded by 4,000 pounds. He didn't know it. It was a bad plane from a place called Cockroach Corner at the Miami airport. The pilot had had no sleep for a day. There was no flight engineer. They got a mechanic off the airport deck to be the flight engineer. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. Everything was wrong except for Clemente's big heart and will. And the plane crashed into the sea after takeoff. Roberto Clemente was never found. In the sports world, the word hero is so often overused. But a hero is someone who devotes his life in service of others. And Roberto Clemente literally gave his life. He had a saying I'd like to leave with you. If you have a chance to help others and fail to do so, you are wasting your time on this earth. There are many, many ways to help others. Find yours, and it will never be a waste of time. Thank you all, and congratulations once again. And go Irish.